No.
Divinely grace with me, love me, feel the circus on all three forces. Is registered.
Guide for allies at 5. And that has Evergreen stamp on it. It's a helpful tool and resource that can be used outside this community though. So please feel free to share that. And when the actual document comes out in the next newsletter, please feel free to forward that to whoever. And I would like to shout out Jim, as well as Sigma, though they are not here, and Amory. They made this resource, so kudos, like they, awesome. Also happening this afternoon, our very own Jan has written a book, and it will launch today at 2 p.m. at Novel Bookstore. So join us as we celebrate her masterpiece. Our practice this week will be on Monday.
That's tomorrow.
At 6 p.m. instead of a Wednesday. However, the following week, it'll resume as usual on Wednesday. We would like to welcome special guests, Reverend Vahisha Hasan, who will deliver the third message of our Evergreen-Rhodes Institute. And now I would like to call Patrick up to make an announcement.
Good morning. We haven't had the pleasure of meeting yet. I'm Patrick. I'm the pastor here at Evergreen. If you're joining us on Zoom or here in the space, I wanted to talk about two very, very quick things. One is we did go back to masks being required for worship for the time being. That was a decision of our session, which is the church council. If you're new to the Presbyterian polity and the way that we do things, and it was not all of the same mind, but that's, we don't always come to consensus like we would prefer. Sometimes we got to make decisions quick. So I appreciate our task force, Roger and Jerry, who have been great resources for the session and for myself, and for members of session that had some discussion very quickly over email over the past few days to make sure that we are trying to do the thing that we feel is the best in terms of the health and safety of this congregation. If you have any concerns about this, reach out to any session members, reach out to myself. If you're not feeling like the community is taking your voice, your health or safety into consideration. We are here to listen, and we want everyone just to simply stay safe. The second thing is next week, if you notice from Beverly's great work on the window, or just on all of our social media, next week we don't have a speaker for Evergreen-Rhodes, even though it's still part of the Evergreen-Rhodes Institute. And I want to say something about that. First of all, I am gone from Thursday morning until Pride on June 4th for a COVID wedding that we're finally going to get to do that we didn't get to do 2 years ago. And I know it's also just Memorial Day, it's a holiday weekend, a lot of folks are traveling out of town. But when I was in middle school, I thought about this morning as the best way to kind of make this point. When I was in middle school, there was a coach that we thought was really, really cool. He was a coach and a teacher, but really he was a coach. And we're going to call him Mr. Red Eye. Mr. Red Eye would come in, he's 8th grade teacher, American history, a lot of days, and his eyes would be really red. He'd seem really tired. And then he would wheel in a big metal cart with a TV on it, and he would show a movie. And we thought he was really cool for this reason. Looking back, I'm realizing he was the night before probably at the Applebee's, which was the only bar in town, a little too late. And so he just showed us a movie and totally phoned it in. Next week, when you see whole church wondering time, that is not the staff rolling out a metal cart with a TV. That is not because we stayed at the Applebee's like that before. As we were thinking about what to do on a day when a couple of us on staff are out of town and it's a holiday weekend, the staff was throwing out an idea several weeks ago, and we really came up with some really, really cool stuff. To the point where I'm sitting there thinking, I should zoom in from Kansas City that morning. I thought, no, I better not. But I think it's going to be a really unique Sunday that feeds on the theme of nurture, where there's going to be some spiritual practices and some conversation. I do think it's going to be a pretty fantastic Sunday. So know that it's not just us trying to like get out of planning something, but I think this is actually going to be a really cool opportunity in this Evergreen-Rhodes Institute. So if you are in town or if you're out of town but are able to tune in on Zoom, I highly encourage you to do so. I think it's going to be a unique and important Sunday. Jim.
Hi, hello, and good morning. My name is Jim Cornford. I'm your Director of Music Ministries and also the Cruise Director for Mid-South Pride, Evergreen College, whatever, I don't know. Hey, this afternoon, immediately following worship, right after worship, we are going to get together here in this space, just talk about Pride, talk about what's going on at Pride, because Pride, anybody want to guess how many weeks we have until Pride? Two. Like 2 weeks from yesterday too. So now 1.8 weeks till Pride. So this afternoon, immediately following worship, please stay and I will answer whatever questions I can about Mid-South Pride and the work and the role that all of us get to do, because we do have a booth and we will need folks to table at that booth, and we are marching in the parade, and I need your bodies in that parade. We need bodies to set up the booth. We need bodies to take down the booth. So this is not a staff only, I'm going to repeat, this is not a staff only event. I, as your gay music director, charge you straight people to show up. So can I get a quick show of hands? Who's going to be at that meeting immediately following worship? Okay, great, thanks. And if you are on Zoom, we're going to keep the camera rolling so you can tune in that way too. This is your one-stop shop to get all your questions answered on Pride. What day is Pride, by the way? That is why we are having this meeting. It is June 4th. If you show up on June 5th, you're going to see a whole bunch of hungover drag queens, and that ain't going to work. So let's try this again. What day is Pride? Saturday. What time is Pride?
10 a.m.
And what time is the parade?
1.
1. All right. I will see all of you at the meeting immediately following worship. Thank you.
I definitely need to be there. Okay, would you stand in spirit or body as we bring in the light together? God of creation, nurture us with the love of Christ. Plant us in the soil of your grace.
The foundation that grounds us,
Enlighten us with the wisdom of your spirit.
which flows through this community.
Abide in us that we may abide in you and live in your light.
Please join us in our opening hymn, number 749, Come Live in the Light.
Join with the toy and the
My name is Catherine Hutchison. I'm a member here, and I'd like to invite you to join in our flourish language, which is printed in the bulletin. We do this together. Flourish alone together. To practice alone
and together. Evergreen is an open and affirming faith community.
in the way of Jesus. We grow through spiritual practices that nourish the individual and cultivate a more
Confident world.
This is the time where we share the love of Christ by passing the peace. And in these confusing days of mask, no mask, we are still passing the peace from a distance. So stay seated, and when I invite you to do this, wave, peace signs, whatever you feel called to do for your neighbors. The love of peace of Christ be with you. And also with you.
Is it any kids on here? Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
So I hope everybody's been having a really, really good week. I have a couple friends with me up here this week, as y'all can see. So I have a question for you, Mr. Matthew and Betty. I don't want to start a sibling rivalry between you guys, but kind of got a question that may start something, okay? Miss Betty, has there ever been a time that Matthew told you that he was gonna do something and he didn't do it? Uh-oh. Like, did he tell you, Betty, I'm gonna put up your toys tonight so that you can go ahead and go to bed. And then you woke up the next morning and your toys weren't put up? Has that ever happened before? Or has he ever done anything? He's a good brother. Basically, he's a good brother. Oh, you're a good brother, Matthew. See? So, see?
Y'all talk about when maybe you fight over who goes first or doesn't have to go first.
Oh, well, that's actually a good fight. I think that's a good fight. Well, so even in school, listen, even in school, there's been times where maybe somebody told you that they were your friend and they did something, mean to you. I think but I think that maybe there's been, you want to lay down? Maybe we start just lay down. But there might have been a time where you've been in school and somebody told you that they were your friend and then they did something mean to you or, bad to you or something like that. And that didn't make us very happy, right? There was this man named John in the Bible and he wrote a letter about this stuff, right? And he wrote it just to us so that we can read it. It says this, dear children, it's right there. Dear children, I have been thinking a lot about what it means to say, I love you. 3 little words that mean so much. Has anybody ever said to you, or have you ever heard actions speak louder than words, Mr. Matthew or Betty? Have y'all heard that? Actions speak louder than words? Like what you do matters more than what you say, because just like Mr. Matthew, if you told Betty you were gonna put up her toys, you had to put up her toys because you said so, right? Or you said so. Now, sometimes we do one thing, we say one thing and we do something different. All right, but you have to remember that it's always important what you do just as much as what you say. So if you tell someone that you love them or you tell someone that he or she is your friend, you have to show it. So maybe you're on a playground and you see your friend needs somebody to play with, you go play with them. Or if you see your friend needs a pencil or a pen and they don't have it for class, you share one with them if you have an extra one. And you do these things because you're kind to others, right? And you can show that God is love when you treat others with love and kindness. God loves when we treat others with love and kindness, right? Even though we all make mistakes, right? God wants to see that we just keep trying. We keep trying to be good people, right? I love y'all so much. Y'all are such beautiful brothers and sisters. Look at my friend. Y'all have a good week. Let's go back over to the table and finish out some fun. Thank y'all.
Thank you, Mr. Corey. We are now at a point in worship where we practice both alone and together our work of silence and the role that silence has to both ground and disrupt us. Dr. Stoddard brought us a beautiful message on nurture, particularly through her work as both a chemistry professor at Rhodes and a mentor of other STEM students. And what she spoke so beautifully about is identifying and reflecting on those folks who identified and nurtured gifts of teaching and student development and leadership development in her. And so that is what I want us to meditate upon today as we continue our work through this series on nurture. I want you to bring to mind someone who identified and nurtured gifts in you. Maybe gifts that you use in your professional setting, maybe gifts that you use in your family and home life, or gifts that you use in the creative world or the athletic world, whatever it may be. And I want you to identify, whether as a child, as a youth, as an adult, someone who identified and nurtured the gifts that you use today. There's no right or wrong way to do this work, but I do invite you to get comfortable in your body. So whether you place both feet firmly on the floor, or you even take a seat on the floor if we're following Mr. Matthews' lead, I invite you to hook into your breath. Take a deep breath in. And exhale for the very length of your inhale. Breathe in through your nose. Exhale through your mouth. On this inhale, I invite you to bring to mind someone who nurtured you and your gifts. So breathe in. And exhale through your mouth. I'll ring the bell to begin our work. In a couple of minutes, I'll ring the bell to bring us back out. Let's practice alone and together. We end our practice, take a deep breath in with that person in mind who you reflected on, breathe in. And on your exhale, just quietly thank that person.
Y'all, it is my honor to introduce the Reverend Vahisha Hasan to this space. Many of you I have heard when we first were talking about who we should ask and who we should approach for this lineup for this year's Evergreen-Rhodes Institute. This is one of the first names that came up as someone who has been a part of this congregation, coming and visiting and speaking and sharing, as someone who was thought very highly of. So there was much celebration when Corey let the rest of the staff know Vahisha's in. So I am really thrilled to, I was excited to get to meet her this morning and hear what wisdom she's going to share with us today. Vahisha Hasan is a faith-rooted organizer moving at the intersections of faith, social justice, and mental health. She is the executive director of Movement in Faith, a project of Transform Network. She's a powerful public speaker, transformative facilitator, social justice trainer, minister, and writer with a deeply prophetic voice and imagination for how faith communities can be an active part of healing and collective liberation. She is currently the director of the SEAL initiatives at American Baptist College in Nashville, SEAL standing for Social Justice, Equity, Advocacy, and Leadership. Beginning in July 2022, Vahisha will be the program director at the historic Claiborne Temple in Memphis. Vahisha is also a core team member of the Track for Movements. TRAC stands for Trauma Response and Crisis Care, providing support tools for wellness for those who labor in freedom and liberation. She also serves as an associate minister at Christ Missionary Baptist Church under the Reverend Dr. Gina Stewart, senior pastor, where she was licensed and ordained June 23rd, 2019. Vahisha holds a dual Master's of Divinity and Master's of Mental Health Counseling with an Education Specialist certification from Gardner-Webb University and a bachelor's degree in communications with a concentration in interpersonal organization from the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. In addition to penning book reviews, journal articles, online publications, and writing a bachelor's curriculum in applied psychology, she has curated and co-edited 3 editions of Recipescence, a Lenten devotional for dismantling white supremacy, 2018, 2019, and 2020. Stay tuned later this year for her next book, co-edited with the Reverend Ann Dunlap, Building Up a New World, Congregational Organizing for Transformative Impact. Vahisha is her best self in community and is deeply grateful for her biological, chosen, and movement family. You can find her moving at the end of her own rainbow in the US South and on Instagram and on Twitter at @VHasan MIF. Y'all, it is my joy to welcome up here to this pulpit, the Reverend Vahisha Hasan.
Situated, type A. And a 7 on the English.
Hey!
7's in the house. I wanted to bring this, the book up because I love the hymn we just sang. So I'm gonna reference it at some point, because goodness. It's okay. I would love to start by thanking all of you. And my Thanksgiving starts today for inviting me to come here. But also I would like to go back a little bit. So Recipescence, the book that he is referring to, Evergreen was one of the first established churches who really supported Recipescence, the very first one. And I think the church bought some books and then disseminated them in different ways. And I was just really floored and excited because it was the first thing I had ever published. So I want to express that appreciation and really honor the ways that you have both shown up for me and in community, and grateful that I can continue to labor alongside all of you. I want to get all the good names. I want to give a particular thank you for all of the staff who dealt with a
a stressed out professor at the end of a semester. Whew. And also in transition, I am moving back to Memphis. I lived here for 3 years, moved to Nashville, worked at an amazing HBCU, historically Black college university. Most folks are familiar with it. It's because that's where the late Representative John Lewis attended school. So you can imagine to be the SIL director at such a place for social justice was a whole beautiful weight. But I am excited to move back to Memphis and work at the historic Claiborne Temple. And even the history of that, all the things we're going to get into today about power deeply reside and move and all of that. But I want to thank the staff for dealing with me over email and my wonderful Pilar and the way you supported and navigated me. Thank you for inviting me. Thank you, all of you. All right, let's get into it. Y'all ready? We should be. I mean, we had a whole meditation. We had a whole like. I feel super grounded. I feel very aware of my body and self, and that feels amazing. I do not often experience a faith, a worship place that incorporates this level of totality of our wholeness, of our humanity. So I'm deeply encouraged as a hashtag therapist, and I'm deeply encouraged and grateful to have been a part. So because I did not get the hymn to your staff folks on time, totally me, I'm going to read a bit of that today. I'm going to give you the lyrics of this hymn, and that's going to be the anchoring for our journey through power today. That feel good?
Yes.
Okay. So I won't have you do a whole meditation, but be aware of what you feel as these lyrics are being read. It is "The Blood Will Never Lose Its Power," penned by Andre Crouch. The blood that Jesus shed for me way back on Calvary, the blood that gives me strength from day to day, it will never lose its power. It reaches to the highest mountain, it flows to the lowest valley. The blood that gives me strength from day to day, it will never lose its power. It soothes my doubts and calms my fears, and it dries all of my tears. The blood that gives me strength from day to day, it will never lose its power. Again, it reaches to the highest mountain, it flows to the lowest valley. The blood that gives me strength from day to day, it will never lose its power. So what did you feel while these lyrics were recited? Just a one or two word feeling word. I'm an extrovert, so the extroverts and the gregarious sevens in the house are welcome to say it out loud. For those who move like a still small voice, you can speak them in your heart. What did you feel? Inspired. Oh, that's a good one. Yes. Fortification. Listen now. Yes. I felt all of that. Like you can persevere, because it'll never lose its power.
From
right?
Zoom, unity,
Unity. Love it.
loved.
So, loved. Yes. Loved, held, nurtured. So as I prepared for our time together, I felt encouraged and excited that there was a community of faith that partnered with an academic institution. I learned some of the history about proximity, but also relationship with Rhodes College, and the fact that y'all want to more deeply wrestle, right, with our faith, and by extension, our deeds. Wrestle with our faith and wrestle with ourselves. Wrestle with our faith and wrestle with the ways of this world. So Hebrews 6:1-3 says, we must try to become more mature and start thinking about more than just the basic things we were taught about Christ. We shouldn't need to keep talking about why we ought to turn from deeds that bring death and why we ought to have faith in God. And we shouldn't need to keep teaching about baptisms or about the laying on of hands or about people being raised from the dead and the future judgments. Let's grow up, if God willing. So thank you again for inviting me to be part of this growing in this context. I delight in the framing of this Evergreen-Rhodes series of nurture. Most often defined as care for and encourage the growth of development of, nurture is often seen and spoken of in a very gendered way. The gift and role of those who identify as women or the divine feminine, if you will. So I honor that today, and since you gave me a whole moment to meditate it and I already had it out, and now I have the mic, so I'm gonna share with y'all. When we were invited to think of the ways that we have been nurtured, I mean, spirit just be, that same spirit just be moving. So I had already pulled out this card that my mother gave me, and I carry it around at all times. So I just had it because this is who I am in the world and how I am grateful for who she's been in my world. So it's pictured with a melanated hand with a bracelet. It even like looks like her. It's really feels good. And it's holding a purple flower, and her name is Violet. And this is what she gave me. The card says, "There you go, holding up the world again. I know that big heart of yours can't help but want to do everything for everybody. But sometimes you've got to take a break, relax, give your spirit time to breathe. Take it easy and gather in some of the strength you're always giving away. Let your soul feel all that love shining back on you. Take care of you, girl. I know you're worth it." And her handwritten note says, "Always take care of yourself. I cannot thank you enough for caring for me. Love always, your mom." This is the nurture that I experienced in my childhood and my adulthood, and as I continue to grow. So again, I'm seriously grateful for the framing of nurture and the way we can do that together. So I honor that today, and I honor the way we find nurture in God, in our families, our biological and our chosen families, in our communities, in creation, nurture, and in this world. May we individually grow. And how do I say alone together? Oh, just made me excited, okay. May we individually grow, and may we grow together and grow in togetherness. Let us grow through wrestling today with thinking about deeds that bring death and deeds that bring life. To do so, we're gonna anchor our wrestling in power. So let's get into naming and viewing power. So power has been defined in so many ways. Just feel through these. The ability to act or to do something, the ability to direct or influence others, to supply with energy, to move or travel with great speed or force, possession, control, authority, omnipotence, all-encompassing, unlimited power of God, guiding power of the Holy Spirit, healing power of God's presence, redemptive power of Jesus's blood. So note again how your body felt going from a Merriam-Webster type of definition to the spiritual context of the definition of power. Anyone feel like they went from a little discomfort to a little comfort? I see. Power that can sound so scary and bad until it is in the hands of God. So listen, y'all may have been able to tell, but I'm Black. And Black folks can relate to that. So I was just recently talking to Reverend Osajifu Sekou about language and the use of Lord for God. And he was talking about how that makes some white progressive folks really uncomfortable using the language of Lord. And so we were talking through that and trying to understand that and also place it in our own context. And my Black bodysuit, that's what my pastor, Dr. Stewart, talks about. And in my Black bodysuit, I can't help but to feel in my ancestral DNA the comfort that some enslaved African felt knowing that there was someone, something, some spirit, some force more powerful than the master who held them captive. More powerful than those that deemed and treated them as less than human. Some power that affirmed their humanity as made in God's image. They too, I too, am the Imago Dei. And so I say, Lord, feeling comforted, feeling nurtured, feeling all of the things we named before. So power in and of itself is not bad, and that's kind of sometimes hard for faith folks, especially in the Christian context, to wrestle with, right? Because we're like, oh no, you have to be humble. But it is how we view power, how we name power, how we move in power that makes meaning, that makes peace or makes war, that upholds oppression or brings forth liberation. So in the hymn, the blood of him was Jesus's. It's Jesus's blood. Jesus is deemed a gift and an example of how power should be viewed, named, and navigated. Not run from, viewed, named, navigated. So in Philippians, I'm gonna give a couple of scriptures that give some context about how we can anchor our thoughts around power. Philippians 2, 6 and 7, who being in very nature God did not consider equality with God something to be used to their own advantage. Rather, he made himself nothing by taking the very nature of a servant, being made in human likeness. Colossians 1, 19 through 20 says, God's self was pleased to live fully in God's Son. And God was pleased for him to make peace by sacrificing his blood on the cross, so that all beings in heaven and on earth will be brought back to God. Lastly, Hebrews 1, 8 and 9, God speaks about Jesus saying, you are God and you will rule forever. Your royal power brings about justice. You loved justice and hated evil. And so I, your God, have chosen you. So I'm gonna do a little excerpt, 3 little excerpts from the original recipients. And the first is by Reverend Brandon Rencher. He identifies as he and him and is located in Greensboro, North Carolina. So he reflects on John 2, 13 through 26 and says, those folks among the religious and civic establishment were exchanging indulgences in the temple at a price that the poor and Gentiles could not afford. There were no signs that said elite Jews, Romans only, but the message was no less clear. The poor and the Gentiles were not welcome. Jesus rejects it either way, de jure or de facto. Jesus turns over the money tables and chases his opponents away with the whip. This is not the sentimentalized Jesus of colonized and consumerist Christianity. This was militant nonviolence on full display in Jesus's action. Is there another strategy that can at the same time release and overcome rage? And he references riot is the language of the unheard by MLK in The Other America. Jesus's actions, deeds, right, scream with the poor and the Gentiles, we are welcome here. So most every American church says that all people are welcome, but only if they are not queer or trans, only if they don't wear baggy clothes, only if they cover their tattoos, only if they have money to contribute on Sunday morning. Still one of the most segregated hours of the week in America. There are no signs that say elite whites only, POC only, but the message is still no less clear. The poor, queer, and trans, and especially the black and brown bodies among us are oftentimes not welcome. So what tables need to be turned over to scream that they are welcome? He talks about it being not love, that it is death, that Jesus demonstrates the only real power that exists, which is spirit, which has the power to transform all things into life. This is the spirit that has the power to set the captives free, freedom from those locked out of the pews, as well as those locked in all manners of ways in society. Freedom for those locked down by chains of white supremacy and capitalism. So I ask y'all here today, what messages are being sent here at Evergreen? At Rose College? What do you actively, publicly support and name and resist? What is named, supported, and resisted, but whispered? What is named and supported and yelled from the rooftops? Where does this naming and supporting and resisting, where does that feel effortless, unhindered? And where does this naming and supporting and resisting feel really heavy to navigate or implement? And these questions are not to halt or hamper naming or supporting and resisting, but the honest answers can point you to the noticings. Noticings that can point you to who and what you actually embody, not just what you desire to embody. Notice things that point you to what you engage in, not just what you desire to project that you engage in. This can show up in iconography. This is just the images around your faith house, right? Philosophy, theology, community, culture, constructs of otherness, in groups, out groups. Who are you in coalition with? Who are you not in coalition with? So that's a little power analysis. Power is present, period. Listen, power is present. Just breathe that in. Turning away from it or not acknowledging it does not make it disappear or even be less of a force. So who holds power at Evergreen? What kind of power? Is it named titles with titles and such, all the way to the unnamed ways, but it's clearly understood as power? Who has to say it is okay for it to happen? Who has to be on board for it to move forward? Why is that? Who can shut it down? Why is that? This is just an introductory framing for power analysis and power mapping, but it's key and essential and important that you do it and then you do it again and you do it again. This is an ongoing practice. It is in this honest and transparent identification of the power and the vulnerable acceptance of the why the power is housed where it is, that breakthrough can actually occur, that transformation can happen. Be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind about power. Other excerpt is by Awari Osanyimbe out of Philadelphia. He said, let us be challenged by the historic reality of the cross, for the cross, understood as Jesus and his followers understood it, represent a confrontation with the systems of unjust power and oppression. The truth of Christ and his message threatened power, those in power, calling for and recognizing the equality of the enslaved and the emperor, the poor and the rich, the sick and the well, the outcast and privileged, is scandalous to the purveyors of the status quo. In The Evidence of Things Not Seen, James Baldwin wrote that white people came to the cross by the way of the Bible, whereas Black people came to the Bible by way of the cross. Today, white people must come to the cross by the way of Michael Brown, Sandra Bland, Eric Gardner, Renee Davis, Philando Castile, Corinne Gaines, and the many others of us Black and brown and poor people executed without trial by the state. So when Jesus told the crowd gathered on the hillside in Galilee to take up their cross and follow him, they didn't think about wearing a gold pendant around their neck. They remembered their family members who in the thousands were crucified by the Romans when Jesus was still a child. So today, when Jesus says, take up your cross and follow me, he is inviting us into a life of confrontation with empire and its enablers and collaborators. Empire is able, this is me, no more Awari. Empire is able to continue to exist because of those enablers and collaborators. This is partially enabled by refusing to confront the power within your own proximal space. You ain't gotta go down to DC. It's power available for you to confront right here. This is partially collaborated by siding with empire because it benefits you. Even when you know that benefit is at the direct and even indirect expense of someone else. So power analysis demands asking who is harmed, who is supported, who benefits from this dynamic decision, action, and inaction, and who does not, and why for all of the above. Asked and honestly navigated every time, especially when it's not comfortable. And again, sevens, we run from pain. We are not a fan of pain. We do not like to experience discomfort. And that means that we need to put supports in place and folks around us so that we do so, right?
Yes.
Amy Cantrell, Reverend Amy Cantrell out of Asheville, she said red tape. What would it look like if you took a roll of just red duct tape and made red lines all over your sanctuary? As one practical example, could we red tape our sanctuary one day just to mark the benefits of whiteness? We benefited from red lines drawn on a map through home ownership. We have segregated ourselves to benefit ourselves. We are more segregated now than then. What reparations do we owe? How does this affect significant aspects of discipleship, which means discipleship is our wallets, our bank accounts, our church budgets, the arrangements of powers when our coins are poured out and our tables of power are turned over. So we're looking for, I'm seeking with you a blood transfusion and for you to make bloody choices. Does that feel comfortable? No, who wants to do that? But that is part of the call today, to make bloody choices with a blood that will never lose its power. A blood transfusion is a medical procedure in which a patient intravenously receives blood from a healthy donor, usually during surgery or for a medical condition. My late grandmother, her life was at one time sustained by such a procedure. And even though I was not a blood match for her, I just consistently gave blood so that lives of others could be similarly sustained. In this context, our healthy donor is Jesus. Luke 22:20 says, and likewise the cup after they had eaten, saying, this cup that is poured out for you is the new covenant in my blood. In our new covenant, how shall we be and move, y'all, with this blood that will never lose its power? Last excerpt is from the Reverend Michael McBride, based out of California. I can't remember if he's in the Bay Area or Oakland. It's the whole thing. He said, I want to call us back to faithfulness. We must make a radical commitment to live our lives resisting the allure of this faithless elixir that neutralizes the power of the blood of Jesus in the life of the American church. By Jesus's example, what must be evacuated in us? Where must we voluntarily empty ourselves for the sake of the gospel? Such a purging of our own privilege can lead to the kind of blood transfusion the American church so desperately needs. This blood transfusion can purge us of our irrational anger, fear, and pain too many in the church succumb to, resulting in us resembling the mob who would cry out, give us back Barabbas, rather than embracing the presence and the ministry of Jesus. Every year in Holy Week, and particularly Monday, Thursday, and Good Friday, reintroduces bloody choices. Will we be faithful disciples of the radical Jesus, a duplicitous apologist for a failing empire? Jesus made choices that led him to a cross, and this faithful journey to the cross forged an eternal and efficacious pathway to salvation. May we unleash the power of Jesus' blood on racism, human hierarchy, and oppression in such a way that we can definitively say, Jesus' blood will never lose its power. So this is your call back to faithfulness, y'all. Call to a blood transfusion, call to make bloody choices, call to love and justice, call to beloved community, call to a power that reaches the highest mountain of liberation to the lowest valley of oppression. Answer the call. Make bloody choices. Amen and Ashe.
Friends, I invite you to take a moment to reflect on the wisdom that you've heard and the challenge that you have been given as we go to God with this, our offering. I'll also be passing around two clipboards to sign up for different ways to be involved on Sundays. One is for greeting, which There's now going to be 2 spots for it. You'll see 2 lines so that we can try to have someone at the front and someone at the back. Thankfully, we have this back parking lot, and Echo isn't partying on Sunday morning, so we have our spots. And so it would be handy to have someone back here as well. And then the other sign-up sheet is if you're willing to do any readings, flourish language, passing of the peace, etc. Let's go to God with this, our offering. Amen. Let's share a word of prayer. Gracious God, we give you thanks for what we can offer to you, whether it is our resources or a joyful noise, other forms of our gifts and talents, our energy, our time. And may these gifts that we share with the world go toward your dream. In many names we pray. Amen. Be seated. Friends, there's much that we hold in prayer this day, things that make us incredible.
In our closing hymn, number 661, Why Should I Feel Discouraged? And we invite you to rise as you are able and to lift your voice. And don't forget, there's a meeting to talk about pride as soon as worship is over. Why should I feel discouraged? Why should the shadows come? Why should my heart be lonely and long for heaven home? When Jesus is my portion, my constant friend is He. His eye is on the storm, and I know He watches me. His eye is on the storm, and I know He watches me. I sing because I'm free. I sing because I'm free. And His eye is on the storm, and I know He watches me. Let not your heart be troubled. It's in the word I hear, and think on His goodness. I lose my doubts and fears. The Lord of love He hears. On one so blind may see. His eye is on the storm, and I know He watches me. His eye is on the storm, and I know He watches me. Because I'm free, I sing because I'm free. For His eye is on the storm, and I know He watches me. Whenever I am tempted, whenever clouds arise, when face to sight, and within He hides, I draw the closer to there He sets me free. His eye is on the storm, and I know He watches me. His eye is on the storm, and I know He watches me. I sing because I'm free. I sing because I'm free. And His eye is on the storm, and I know He watches me.
Benediction brought to you by Philippians 1:9, the revised Vahisha version. I pray that your love will keep on growing and that you will fully know and understand how to make bloody choices. Then you will still be holy and powerful when Christ returns. And until that day, Jesus Christ will keep you active in powerful good deeds that bring glory and praise to our just God. Go forth in nurture, power, and love. Amen.
And you will have some Zoom participants here if you want to gather
Great.
around.
So yeah, we'll probably just pull some chairs up around here. Who else zooming in?
Amory and Celeste.
Got it. Cool.
So far.
Yeah, that's what I did. I think more opportunity for injuries. And I don't want to bust up these two old friends. I just want to say, so first thing you have to do is go make me some bloody shorts. It's just it's great.
You good? Do I set it up okay? Or did I have issues?
No, you set it up perfectly. I struggle always with the screen share.
I gotta just deal with my computer. When the cursor disappears, it's like impossible.
Yeah.
That's how everybody usually knows.
Not seen that happen. Well, I hadn't seen much. So Amory and Celeste and perhaps Kelsey Kent are gonna stay on. Yeah, that's weird. It signed out and then it signed back in.
I'm just gonna post it right here.
Yeah, Jim said he'd gather around. It is interesting how the camera focuses in and out. It's
So we can
people
have-
walking in front of it together.
Yeah.
Round up. I don't think we're gonna have too many people here.
Ken and I have these grand plans hopefully this summer. He's got such know-how. He's gonna help me figure it out. He showed me some stuff a while back, but then everything was so backward. I just canceled the orders to put in like an actual cameras.
Yeah, yeah.
If you're doing pride things, just come on over here.
I was gonna say that.
If you're doing pride things, just pull up a chair and come on over here. I'm gonna get us out by 1 o'clock at the very late.
I turned the.
So we can go support Jan if you are able to.
The fan to the on, you know, so it circulates the whole time people are in here.
Take one
I
down.
just put it back in auto because I forgot this meeting was happening, but you know, if you wanna kick it on or whatever, I'm gonna leave, but it's just a thought, you know, just to keep more air.
Jim, scoot your chair over that way. We get more people in the screen. Do we have this in digital form that I could share?
Not right now. Well, actually, no. There was one that was sent, that I sent to the staff.
Yes, and it will definitely be in the newsletter.
Okay.
I'll be doing a lot of talking about taking minutes. It is us. It is our booth. Okay, well, I don't know if Presbyterian's gonna have to, but Idlewild. Yeah. But yeah, I don't think this Presbyterian as an organization has a booth. It's just that we have to march loosely as a Presbyterian. We'll probably just use the same banner that we've used before, the kind of rainbowy. Would you pass one of these? Some. Sorry, how dare you?
I think for once I'm gonna be in town. So.
Hey!
That is good news, isn't it? So it's on a Saturday.
Yes.
And we need people to set up.
Yes.
Sit at a booth and take down a booth.
Yep. So I think Patrick and CK, you're joining this shindig. Well, are you sitting in with us?
Patrick is.
But you're not.
We'll be coming in.
I know you're coming in. Right. Okay. Well, hi, hello. We got some folks here. I know some folks who are going to be volunteering, like Jan cannot be here because she's getting ready to promote her book. So we'll go ahead and just get started. And I want to start by first doing a little bit of some. Thanks for do some icebreakers. So what I want to do is I want everybody to go around and Zoom folks. You can absolutely type in your answer to this. I want you to go around and say whether it's your first time ever to Pride or it's your 20th time to Pride. What are you looking forward to for Mid-South Pride in 2 weeks? I'll go first because I'm running my mouth. I'm just looking forward to all the colors and warmth of the summer heat and getting back out and celebrating with the community and marching down the parade. So that's what I'm looking forward to. So what about y'all? What are you looking forward to this year?
I've been before and I'm looking forward to being able to go again and be around. Represent our church.
Yeah. So looking forward to representing the church and being with people.
My first time.
First
I
time.
think so, because I think I'd rather kind of spend some time.
There you go.
Not for not wanting to, but anyway, so just looking forward to some good fellowship and support. The whole idea of supporting, really as a straight guy to support my friends that may not be straight.
Awesome. I definitely don't have to be straight.
Celeste says this will be her first Pride.
Awesome. Welcome.
This will be my first Pride, and I'm looking forward to just experiencing everything, taking it all in.
Amory says this is her 6th Pride and she's looking forward to going for the first time since the pandemic and spending time with my queer fam.
6th Pride. Which Pride is this for me? 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. This will be my 11th. No, 12th. Because one year I did 2 Prides, Chicago and here. So this will be my 12th Pride. Anybody else? What are you looking forward to? Whether it's your first, 6th, 12th, 20th Pride?
This will be our 3rd, and we've only participated in a car.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm really looking forward to getting the full experience.
Yeah. Oh, it's experience. All right.
Linda texted me and said she's excited to be there. She didn't get the memo. She's not on the meeting, but she said include her.
You can text her the Zoom link and let her know that we're
No, she's got other things she's doing.
no,
I mean, she intentionally signed off.
there. Okay.
That's if she ever gets back into town.
Hey. All right, I got one more icebreaker, and this one is specifically for those who have been to Pride, and specifically, y'all are speaking to the folks who've not been to Pride. For those who have been to Pride, what has been a transformative moment for you at Pride? Even if you are straight, you can have these transformative, aha, power of Pride. This is why we do it. Do I need to move this way? Okay. So the question is, this is specifically for folks who've been to Pride. What has been a transformative moment that you experienced or that you witnessed? And I'll go first, and then you can go second. It actually happened at the 2019 Pride. My neighbors across the street were Garrett and Sharice, straight presenting couple, but Sharice was bisexual. Garrett grew up, is still bisexual. Garrett grew up here in Memphis, and they wanted to come and support me and our work at Pride, so they were there, having the time of their life. And there was a drag queen who's performing that name called Moth Moth Moth. She's actually a pretty well-known drag queen in the city. Moth 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 and Garrett were cousins, and they had not seen each other since childhood, because just the way that they grew up here and the families that they grew up here, that just kind of coldly fell apart. So Garrett grabbed me as soon as the parade was done and said, look, that was my cousin. We just hugged and reconciled here at Pride, and it's the first time that I have seen them in years.
Wow.
And so I was the one who brought Garrett to his very first Pride ever. So for me, that was a really powerful moment of how important Pride can be in these, on the ground festivity moments. You can still have these powerful moments of family reconciliation and planting the seeds for future relationship building. So that's an experience that I experienced. That was 2019. So the rest of it,
Just from being in it for this would be the third year, like Renee said, but driving in that parade is just that interaction and the response you're getting from people that were in the parade. They were like surprised and happy, and we're honking our horns and flashing our lights, and then we get all the traffic cops, and they were just waving us through the red lights, and like being an extrovert, we were like under the spotlight. I love it. Yeah, it's like I was like the homecoming queen there.
It was great marching in it for the first time. That was a nice release.
Yeah.
I've been to a couple of them. We've never actually won. Really make your make your kids proud.
I had a really different experience. The only time I went downtown, we had a tent. I don't know if we had it with somebody else. It was just an evergreen tent, but that was when Lucy was here, and her baby Jude was with us, and Jude was tiny, I mean, barely months old. And Lucy wanted to go off and march. I said, well, I'll watch Jude. And it was so hot that day. I don't know if any of y'all were beastly hot. And I thought he was gonna pass out. It was so hot. And somebody walked by and they said, is that baby all right? And I said, well, I don't know. And so they went and got 2 nurses, and then all these other people, medical people, just swarmed our tent. And they got water bottles and rubbed his arms and legs with cold water, and put a damn cloth on his head. And it was just this amazing community that just appeared. And it was really neat.
I'm going to say Roger and I have been going to Pride for 10 or 12 years now, and I just love the community that's there. We haven't always made it, different versions of people, different evergreen configurations. We were pretty unofficial in the first few years. I remember when Memphis Pride was teeny tiny, and then when it got so much bigger, and it was like, this is really great. I always am proud of Memphis.
Yeah.
Coming, it's baby steps, but coming further.
Yeah. We may not have the glitz and glam of an Atlanta or New York or Chicago Pride, but I always feel like mid-city prides like this one. There's there's a certain punkness.
Well, I think the first year we went, correct me if you no, don't correct me, Roger. I swear there were like 150 people and the parade was a block long and everybody just ran back to the other end and marched again, ran back and marched
Yeah,
again.
yes, that's a
And you
true
just
story.
did it over and over and
Yeah.
over again. So it looked like more people.
Yep, that's right. That's what happened. Yep. Now we don't need to do that anymore.
Nope. Now it goes on forever.
Yes. Okay, so let me walk you through some logistics about the festival itself. And then I'll walk you through what we need y'all to do. And then the last thing we'll do is we'll explore this document together. So here are the logistics of the festival. It is Saturday, June 4th, not Sunday, June 5th. It will all be over on that day. So please mark your calendars. It is Saturday, June the 4th. And this is the first year in many years, if ever, that the Memphis Pride has been in June. Historically, it's been towards the end of September or even early October. So we have moved it to June to be with the rest of the country. The festival itself is from 10 a.m. That's when the gates open to 5 p.m. The height of the festival is basically from noon to 3. That's when we need all hands on deck. Because for those of you who thought the parade was at noon, you weren't entirely wrong. That's when the parade lineup starts. This parade step off is at 1 o'clock. And I don't know the exact parade route at this time, but typically it involves marching from Robert Church Park up Beale Street. And then we kind of circle back, we go all the way to Front Street, circle back around and come back into the park. Robert Church Park, if you don't know where it is that little park directly behind FedEx Forum, basically at the corner of Danny Thomas and MLK. I bike by it every Tuesday morning. Now Thursday mornings is when I do my sunrise, right? So in terms of parking, one, we do encourage carpool, but two, in terms of parking, there's no, as far as I know, dedicated Pride parking. Just pick a parking garage and walk, and maybe drop some folks off at the festival first. Here's the new one. You need to know this. For the first time ever, Pride is charging an admission fee.
Oh, yay.
$1. So it's not, shouldn't be a deal breaker. I hope for the teenagers who are literally coming in from like Marion, Arkansas and Jackson, Tennessee, who are trying to celebrate Pride for the very first time ever and not let any of their family know. I hope that $1 doesn't keep them out. When I asked on their socials why, they just said, well, because it makes it easier with the city of Memphis. I don't know if that has anything to do with the renewal of police screening and down Beale Street and all the things that have happened.
Well, they have to pay a special events festival permit and they need to cover that cost and the police. So there are costs involved.
Sure.
And it's lovely that they can recoup some of that.
Sure. So just be aware. And I think you can pay your $1 entrance fee online and ahead of time. But if nothing else, just at least bring a $1 bill so that you can get into the ground.
Or some extra $1 bills to pay for those kids who don't have it.
We as a staff, we are talking about, is it possible that we can have a benevolence fund so that like I'm there in my leathers out front handing out $1 bills to kids who need to get in, right? Any questions about thank you, Vahisha, so much.
Thank you. It was wonderful. Love y'all. Thank you so much. Thank you.
All right, so any questions about the logistics of the festival itself before we get to volunteer needs? Seems pretty straightforward. Just remember, Saturday, June 4th. And it's a whole weekend thing. Mid-South Pride begins that Wednesday before with a drag and drive at the Summer Drive-In Theater. They'll have a drag show. They'll have 2 films, queer films. I know Patrick and CK went to it last year, had the time of their life. So you can go to that, there's a big gay dance party on Friday night, there's queer prom, there's all kinds of things, but Saturday, June 4th is the big one. All right, here's what we need y'all for. And I know we're gonna have more volunteers than us. So part of your work is recruiting volunteers, but we need a setup crew. It could be as early as 8 a.m. It could be even earlier. I don't know, because Mid-South Pride isn't exactly the best on communicating. So when Patrick tells me whatever he gets, but we're gonna need a few folks, and I'm happy to be part of the setup crew, but we're gonna need some folks to, they provide us a table, they provide us a plot of land, that is it. So we need to bring our own chairs, We need to bring our own tent and covering. Catherine, I feel like you have lent that before. Is that correct?
No, I have the tent. Catherine has a wagon that we
You have a
haul
wagon.
things in.
Yeah, I do have a question.
Yeah.
Do we have an electrical hookup?
I don't know.
I doubt it.
I wouldn't count on it.
Okay, because last time somehow or other we had a fan go.
That might have just been
No, that was
sheer luck. We might have gotten placed at the one point there was an outlet. Patrick, since he registered us, he might get the information on if we have an outlet.
Okay.
Yeah, there you have it.
Oh,
There you have it.
wow.
If they do it like they've done past, then we can pull up our cars to Robert Church Park by like 8 or 9 a.m. Again, Patrick will get that information through your email. But we'll be able to drop off our stuff, and then the car's got a jet surely by 9 a.m., maybe even by 8 a.m. So setup probably won't take that very long, but we definitely need our tent. We probably could bring a couple of the white folding chairs from the shed. Everybody else can levitt shell it, right? Bring your own camping chairs, that kind of stuff. What we've done, we've provided on the table in the past has been just some pamphlets on who Evergreen is. I think Pastor Patrick is working on kind of a open and affirming statement that we'll have on the table. We've also done a craft at the booth where we would have these cutout angel wings, and folks can color on them and wear them throughout the festival. And I think that is the plan, and that might very well be one of our spiritual practices in worship next week, is to cut out those wings. But also leave it to y'all, especially you Pride veterans. What would y'all like to do at our table throughout the festival? What would you like to offer? What would you like to see?
I've always thought we should offer candy and
Mhm.
beads. You know, because a lot of places do. offer
Jan is bringing
beads.
necklaces. Yeah, she's bringing that.
And I think we'll do the same.
Okay, cool.
There's also-
Got my stuff done.
well, we've done, are you committed to the butterfly wings still?
No, I'm not committed to that.
Because one thing that I've seen that I thought was relatively cute and easy, but we'd have to buy something, are little, like, how I've seen them made is with a small PVC pipe, or even just a stick of wood with ribbons on the end. So, you know, there's a pride colored twirling stick kind of
Ooh.
thing. And they're fairly simple. The butterflies got pretty complicated with cutting them out, decorating them, and space for people to draw and color. And,
Sure.
And attaching them.
Yeah.
That's what I remember.
and then there was that. So
So what would we need to make these kind of?
I think I have a prototype here somewhere. Let me look.
Oh, okay, come on.
I can remember using it, I think.
There will be new Evergreen Pride bumper stickers, like the rainbow with the swirly.
Ah,
And
Or
then,
any model stickers.
yeah, yes. And then, shoot. there's one more.
Oh, beer and him stuff.
Hearing him stuff, just to kind of show folks what we do.
Yeah.
About us, and then our print-out pins, we're gonna put out a bunch of those. for folks.
And bring, because we'll get to that in a bit. Okay, so while she's getting that, those are things that we'll just need to bring as part of the setup through. Booth buddies, we want a pair of volunteers every hour on the hour, 10 to 11, 11 to noon, noon to 1, 1 to 2. Jan's already got one of the 2 to 3, so on and so forth. We would love to have as many folks as possible in the booth at all times, but these are just dedicated folks who they're there, and they are there just to speak good on Evergreen and receive guests, and particularly the 2 folks who make the sacrifice to be at our booth and not march in the parade. Y'all are there to just make sure our stuff is looked after, and not everybody's gonna want to be at the parade. There might be some stray person who just needs someone to talk to instead of be at the parade. You never know. So we just need that booth buddy, 2 people who are dedicated to the booth for the hour. I plan to be with their, not just through 7-3, but through most of the morning and parade as well. So you'll be hanging out with me. But I'm not going to sign up as a volunteer because I'm not a volunteer. This is my thing. Any questions on booth buddies and their work? We need at least one person to be our hydration guru. Who will show up by noon with water, beverages, maybe an extra bottle of sunscreen because it will be June. It could be very hot and sunny. So we need one person to sign up for that. And then whoever is booth buddy 4 to 5 p.m., that's also, you're typically striking everything, taking everything down. The festival closes at 5. If by say like 4:15, you're realizing this is happening for, oh, we're not really getting any visitors and the place is starting to clear out, just go ahead and take it, right? Because it definitely clears out by 5. Folks start going home and shower and get ready for their evening festivities. So that's what we need. We need a setup crew. We need booth buddies throughout the day. We need a hydration guru to make sure we are hydrated and moisturized and sunscreen. And our last set of booth buddies are also responsible for taking it down. As we all know, strike is a lot easier. If you're just angry and dehydrated by that point, just get in the car and go home. give me some Hueys. At least that's what I'm probably gonna do. Any questions on volunteer needs?
So you sign up by going.
Yep, so you can sign up by, oh, it's not on my, but yeah, on the back of the Pride Guide, you can either scan that, or if you want something a little bit more festive, you can also scan this guy. And we'll put these, I'll put them up at the front by the bulletins so folks can sign up. But that should bring a link to a website that Latifah put together. You can sign up. And if by this time next week, we realize that we don't have enough volunteers, I'm gonna start coming after you.
I'm happy to bring a whole bunch of water, but I can't get it from my car.
Sure.
If I can get someone to help me load it, how many cases do you think? I mean, I know cases.
Well, there's stuff for sale there too. I mean, bring a case, you know, ice down, but we can,
Whatever I can fit in my cooler.
Yeah.
probably, and then put some ice on.
well, that's carryable too. You can pack it so.
Hopefully, preferably a cooler with wheels.
Oh, yeah, I got a cooler with wheels. Somebody probably has a bigger one than me though. Mine isn't that big. What about food? Do we need to bring lunch food?
You can if you want, there will be vendors there, but you don't have to.
Okay, well, I mean,
But I might pack a peanut butter and honey sandwich anyway, 'cause that's what I live on.
well, yeah. I
As
mean,
long as it's not contaminated by something.
You don't want,
We see on the next patch.
yeah, you don't want to be in a food line
Yeah.
forever if you're
Right.
supposed to be booth sitting. or
Right,
something.
right.
So I'll bring some sandwiches of some description.
Yep.
That won't have salmon in them.
Yeah, did you hear about that? There's a peanut butter recall, and I got it.
No.
Not sick, but
Oh my
I got
God.
the email last night from Costco, and they're like, you might be one of the people who bought this. I opened it, it's like,
Oh,
chunk.
yeah.
Any other questions on either volunteer needs, or this is also transitioning to what you need to bring to Pride, if you, especially if you've never been before.
Hat.
Yeah, a hat.
Bring money to support the vendors.
Yep. Well, then let's do this. You have in your hand the very document that Latifah talked about in your announcement.
Oh, wait, Kelsey and Ken say have a couple of extra cases of water and a cooler with wheels. You can put the Gibbs Hamiltons on that. Mark,
Great.
there you go.
Awesome.
Catherine,
Fantastic.
you're off duty.
Yeah, for folks who are on the Zoom, do you have any other questions or comments right now about Pride and volunteers and what to bring?
I'll let you know if
Yeah.
I type it in.
Okay, I have a question.
Yeah.
In the past, we've worn evergreen shirts. Do we have anything going on with that?
So I still wear my tie-dyed shirt that Mary Button made 30, 40 of them a couple years ago. I have 3 or 4 or 5 of them at home. But they don't say evergreen on them. They are just tie-dyed, happy
okay.
t-shirts. We don't really have a good evergreen one right
Yeah,
now.
we haven't generated any evergreen merch in 3 years, so.
I also have a love t-shirt. I think anything that's just happy. Yeah. Yeah, but I agree, if we take some of those he, him, her, she, them, they,
Yeah,
whatever,
yeah.
those
Do you have any
buttons.
stickers that say evergreen or
Oh, thanks.
something?
You just said that you're bringing those, yeah.
Bumper stickers.
Okay.
Wouldn't we look funny?
I'm just thinking of a round sticker that has our flourish in the name of the church, something like that, so they can identify us as somebody that goes with the booth.
Yeah, I can put an order for something like that too.
Okay. And then we have the big stickers that you go on like laptops or.
Oh, yeah, those stickers, those are good stickers.
Yeah,
that's really.
And we got the banner too that we brought to.
Do you know where it's at?
I feel like we have a tub in there marked Pride.
We do, well, we had two tubs marked two prides and it's not in either one, but I'll look back here in a minute. Neither is my dancer ribbon thing, but I found ways to make them and I'll get the stuff from the dollar store this week.
Great.
Or next week
Great.
and have it ready to go.
I think the banner, we use it for other things. I think it's just sitting here standing.
Okay, here's what I want to do. I want you to take 5 minutes.
Oh, Kelsey and Ken say Target has a big pride section right now too, so shirts or whatever, and yeah, I'll answer Amber. Y'all go on.
Target. They got their Pride merch laid out. All right, I want you to take 5 minutes to read through both sides of this document because it'll both answer some questions you're already asking, and it might answer some questions you don't know you have yet, and it might even raise some questions. So take 5 minutes, starting now. This may be wrapping up, so take. Finish your sentence. All right, anything in that document that makes you go, aha, or I didn't realize that, or I need some clarification around that. This was put together by your LGBTQ kin here at Evergreen.
How do you identify a Mid-South Pride official?
They should, that's a great question. They should be wearing some sort of t-shirt that says Mid-South Pride, and they definitely will have a booth, like probably very close in the entrance.
Okay.
Yeah, but they'll probably be wearing either badges or a t-shirt that says Mid-South Pride.
Okay.
Other questions? About this document? I guess I do want to highlight, it feels particularly important to me to highlight that just as Pride has been getting bigger every year, one of the metrics that we knew Pride was growing was that we finally got our protesters. Memphis Pride was so tiny that it didn't merit the attention of the protesters. And then they started coming, and then they started getting police details assigned to them, which is standard. So if that happens, if you see them, don't feed the trolls. And who knows what's gonna happen, with all things, Roe v. Wade and the Supreme Court, and how folks on a certain side of the political spectrum have felt emboldened to act in ways that they maybe haven't. And with the potential specter of if Roe v. Wade goes, well, what about Libby Cartel? What about Lawrence, the Supreme Court's case that decriminalized sodomy in 2003, right? These are things that could be on the table too. So we don't know who's going to show up at Pride. This is our first in-person Pride since not just the pandemic, but since the George Floyd uprising, since the complete shift of the Supreme Court and the federal judiciary as we know it. So Pride will be a lot more political, I think, this year, in addition to the release of joy and excitement and get to be who I am. And there really is a marked contrast between the vibes and the energy that happens in the parade grounds, right? Where everything will be good and excited and whatnot. But then when you step foot out of that, and I mean by a block, the vibe changes all of a sudden. And I remember an acquaintance of mine coming down to do Memphis Pride. He came down from Chicago and he noticed it immediately. Like, man, stepping outside of the festival grounds, it is not as vibrant. It feels fearful. But stepping inside the festival grounds, it feels more alive. So just be sensitive to that and all that. Any questions about Pride and what y'all can do and how y'all can help and how y'all can have fun? How you can make some, shall we say, bloody decisions as Vahisha exhorted us today. Well, I want you to hear it from me, a gay man, directly. One, your presence at Pride is needed, not just wanted, it's needed, right? I cannot tell you how many queer folks have come up to me at Pride to say that when a straight, mostly straight, affirming church shows up at Pride just to hang out, y'all's presence is healing unto itself. So then to go the extra mile to be in the parade, to have a booth, to create a space of hospitality and justice and flourishing and friendship and art and beauty, all those things that we value here, it goes the extra mile. You don't, if anybody comes up to you and says, I'm gonna put you on the spot here, Patrick. If anybody, Patrick, were to come up to this church and these members and say, what does Evergreen say and believe about the Bible, homosexuality, those kind of questions, how might you coach our folks to answer that?
Vahisha used a great term this morning that I love, the Imago Dei, which means image of God. And I think that Evergreen affirms that every human being is created in the image of God, and Evergreen wants to be a community where you're invited to belong and discover what that image is and who God's created you to be. And then I'm gonna ask them what they think.
Yeah.
From there.
Yes. Yeah.
I've never encountered in all our years at the booth, anybody confronting us
Yeah.
at our booth. Nobody's questioned us. It's more like, thank you for being the kind of church that welcomes us.
Yep. That is, I'd say that is 99.99999% really what's going to happen. There's always that 0.00001% possibility that somebody might just show up, with those kind of questions. But I think what Patrick suggested of keep it on the image of God and throw it back on them, be curious in the response.
And also, it's like our millennial small group and some of our visitors that have been really hurt by the church, and even if they're straight folks that that want to be really good allies. That's a big question for in our millennial small group, is like what they'll say things like, I want to have an open and affirming theology. How do I get there? And so I think it's the kind of thing where everybody can kind of say like, yeah, you want to get here. Let's help you articulate and put the pieces together of what we really believe. So what my plan is, just like Jim mentioned earlier, is to have like a quick little hoop that's sitting on the table. That's, if folks do ask you, you don't have to worry about it tongue tied, or I don't know, I just want to be, do what Jesus would do, that kind of thing. We'll be right there.
Go.
I have three things I want to say.
Yep.
One, if it's a hot sunny day, bring an umbrella. Where they line up for the parade 3 years ago, the only time I was there this way, you stood out on a hot asphalt street in the midst of a pack of people for about an hour.
Yep.
And it's miserable if
Yep.
it's hot and sunny. Two, we have a logistical problem. Maybe none of y'all do, but I do. Jerry Hasan, at my invitation, is speaking at a workshop that morning out in Germantown, Farmington Presbyterian. I encourage y'all to come. I understand not everybody can. He is doing one of the early workshops. I've told them from the beginning, I'm part of the organization of it. I will leave at noon. Some others will leave at noon. It's a great, the primary speaker's a great person. You would enjoy that. Jerry, she'll speak about 9 to 10, Jerry until maybe 10:45 or 11. His is a breakout group. I encourage you to attend that if you can to support Jerry. I plan to work the afternoon shift. And that's all I can remember. I know I said 3 things, but I don't remember the other.
66% is passed.
I never can remember more than 3 things. Obviously, I've dropped down to 2.
Any other questions or comments on Pride? All right, so your next steps are scan the dinosaur, scan the QR code and sign up for a time. That's number 1. Number 2, recruit someone to sign up for a time, right? Again, this is not a staff only thing. We need all y'all to do this. And then number 3, just mark calendars for what day is Pride?
June 4th.
And is that a Saturday or a Sunday?
Saturday.
It's a Saturday. So mark your calendars for Saturday, June 4th. Find all your colorful, rainbow, glitterific gear that you can find. Make plans to tip the drag queens if they are receiving tips. Sometimes for a situation like this, they may not be, but they'll make that pretty clear and you'll see what the other folks are doing. Yeah, if you could, Susan, about the whole PVC banner streamer thing, if you could like email me and the staff what's needed for that.
No, I'll buy what's
Oh, you're
needed.
just
I'll
doing it.
take care of that.
Got it. Okay.
I mean, it's not quite 2 weeks away. I can
Yeah.
handle that.
Great. I think that's gonna be a less messy, less packing activity, it sounds like, which will probably be good. Yes, we do have wrestling at Memphis Pride. Good old Jerry Lawler style Memphis wrestling at Memphis Pride. So I hope you're there to do it. All right, that concludes what I wanted to share with you. Thank you for staying after worship. And at 2 p.m., our friend Jan Shively is debuting her book. It is a phenomenal book, so I invite you to go. It's that novel. And she's gonna say she wants to just give away her book at a discount, and I say no, you just buy it. Just buy it. Support our friend. All right, thanks so much, and we'll see you around.
Hey, Catherine.
And if y'all go out the back and you happen to see that, like, you can see a drainage system, thank Roger for digging in the mud last week.
Taking out dishes.
It's wonderful.
Yeah.
Hey, Catherine.
Not right now. No.
It probably will be the hottest time of the day, but you consider, I sent a message to Lisa.
Yeah. Thanks.
I was just so.
Are you asking about me?
I know, right?
So I was thinking, like, I got to order these stickers and I'm putting in some orders for things. So I can put them
Yeah.
That's like, I think what I'm really worried about is the consent piece of like, if our folks are like, we need to be themselves.
You know, I think.